Okay, guys. My name is Jason Matthews. I will be presenting for the Stripe one-on-one. I want to start off by saying, who knows what Stripe is? Okay, you're at the wrong talk if you already know what Stripe is. One-on-one course, this is not for you. This is going to be very, very basics. I'm going to go through a little bit of how to use Stripe with no technical knowledge, right? So it's going to be no coding, all Stripe dashboard, right? If you have a business, right, and you want to start charging or automating charges, that's a great piece of content for you guys. And then we're going to go into the technical portion, which is how to integrate Stripe with your own thing, right? So let's get started. A little bit about myself. My name is Jason Matthews. I'm really, really passionate about learning, right? That's how I got into this industry. I do not have a software engineering degree. I basically wanted to start something, and I started learning, and I kept on learning. It helped that my dad was a senior engineer, but that aside, right, I'm a self-taught engineer, and right now at the moment, I work at a company called Deliverect. They do integrations for like restaurants. So the best way of thinking about it is, who has ordered with Uber Eats? DoorDash. Skip the dishes, right? Well, you only order through these things once at a time. You order your pizza from DoorDash, and then you get it, you eat it, and then that's it. From a restaurant's point of view, they have like 6, 7 tablets with every individual different platform or channel. So what we do is that we take all that information, we put it into one tablet, and that means that we have access to a bunch of data. Like we can tell them, hey, this channel, DoorDash, is doing better than Uber Eats or Skip the Dishes. Check some things out here. If you need to do a menu change, you can go ahead and say, oh, well, I want to do a menu change and push it everywhere. So yeah, that's some of the stuff that we do currently. We will be hiring soon, so next time you guys see me, ask me about it. And more importantly, I work as a CEO and founder of Kera. We are trying to build a rental property management application, and this links a lot to why the presentation today, right? So essentially what we want to do is be a landlord's best friend. So anyone's landlords in here? Okay, few landlords. We want to be a landlord's best friend and streamline things for you as a tenant. So landlords and tenants get features like maintenance requests. So if anything goes wrong, you can take a picture and like send it over through the application, chat and some other stuff. More importantly, we are trying to enable payments. A bunch of landlords do not take payments online, and we're doing all of that through Stripe. I learned plenty about Stripe, and I went to the deep end of it. So again, does anyone want to give me a little hint of what is Stripe? It's right there, but if you know, go ahead.
Stripe is a payment processing platform that allows businesses to accept payments securely and efficiently online.
Yeah. Go ahead if you have something else.
Say if you develop an application and you want some coins to start rolling in, integrate Stripe.
Okay, you see it?
It's payment processing.
Yeah. So if you want to set up any type of payment processing online, Stripe is going to be the golden standard to do so, right? Next, why Stripe, right? So Stripe is extremely easy to set up. If it's on the dashboard or the integration portion, super, super easy. Their API sets everything up. For the front end, they also have an SDK that you have to set up, but we'll get to that a bit later. So super, super easy to set up. They're also extremely secure. They are what is called PCI Level 1 compliant. Anyone know what PCI means? Go ahead, man. Yeah, you.
Yeah, they don't store your card numbers. They can run through the system, but they can't store it.
Yep, okay. Anyone else know what PCI means?
Just sets of some security standards.
Yeah. So the full acronym is actually PCI DSS, and it stands for Payment Card Industry Data Security Standard. There you go. Data Security Standard. And they are at the top of the level, which means that not necessarily that Stripe doesn't save your information, but you, as the person integrating it, cannot save any of this information. So you do not get to see any of the customers' credit card information, which is pretty crucial, right? They have a super wide range of payment options. So with Stripe, you can go ahead and integrate other things like Apple Pay, right? There is WePay, which is something different. We have Oxo Pay, that's in Mexico. So they have a super wide range of payment options that you can take advantage of, and you don't have to do anything. You just turn it on, right? So super user ease. They are super developer friendly. Bunch of integrations, bunch of APIs, bunch of documentation. I see a lot of heads nodding because they definitely agree with all of that. Their dashboard portion is extremely friendly. And then I also put competitive pricing, but it has an asterisk because they are industry leaders. They kind of set the price. Stripe charges 2.9% per transaction. And for small transactions, it may be fine. But as you get to bigger transactions like paying for your rent, it ends up being like if you pay for $3,000 in rent, you end up paying about $150 just for that fee. They have different, like I said, there's different payment options. So you also get to use direct debit, or I think in Canada we call it pre-authorized debit or PAD. So you can integrate stuff like that also with Stripe, and excellent support. I want to take a second on this portion because they have the chat online, and that's on the dashboard side. But something they have that I've never seen before is that they have a Discord for developers, right? So they have a Discord channel just for developers. So a developer, if you're someone new and you don't have anyone to help you out, you can go and talk to a Stripe developer about whatever you're trying to integrate, right? So I think that's very cool. As a developer, I have used it a lot, and it helps with really the basic things and the really complex Stripe things. Today we're going to do some of the basics because it's a 101 course. And for that, we're going to start off on the Stripe dashboard. Right? So let's go to my Stripe account. I went ahead and created a Stripe account specifically for this. So this is normally what Stripe would look like on a regular basis. You go ahead, create an account, you log in, make sure that you are on test mode because they will charge you for anything that goes live. Make sure that you're on test mode. And then let's go ahead and do something very, very basic. I'm not sure if anyone here owns their own business or is striving to. Maybe something like consulting, right? How would you think, just throwing questions out there, how would you think that you would have to charge a customer? What would that process look like? For anyone that maybe has a business already, that would be fine too. Yeah, go ahead.
Send them an invoice and ask them to send me a check.
Yep. I don't know about the check part, but but that first part is correct. Go ahead.
Yeah, so creating a customer record, and then if they give you the card directly, you could charge them, I guess.
Yeah, exactly. Right. So for Stripe, go ahead.
Or you would set up something that takes their payment one time, and like they enter in your card information, and the product or service that you sell is directly delivered to them somehow. But first, they need to be redirected to this payment page.
Yeah.
if you will.
Exactly. Right. So right here in Stripe, super, super simple. We're going to go to the portion that's billing. Right. So I can go to billing, and then we're going to have some different options on how to build customers. Go ahead.
Maximize and zoom, just so that I think I can see, but I don't. Can everyone at the back see the screen clearly?
zoom in a little bit.
Maybe zoom in a bit.
How are we doing there? Better? People at the back? Okay, great. So you'll see a few different billing options, right? Right now we're gonna go super basic. We're gonna go to invoicing, right? And you're gonna be able to create a new invoice. So create a new invoice, and then they'll give you super intuitive UI so you can create this invoice. Right here we have customer. I have myself as a customer. I'm gonna keep it that way because I want to receive the email myself, right? You can get to put in an item. So if you're billing by hours, you can go say, you know what? I'm gonna say React plus native speaking fee, right? So React plus native speaking fee, and I'm gonna charge $10,000. So I'm gonna charge $10,000. By the way, I don't get paid. Don't worry. I'm not charging $10,000. And then you can go ahead. You scroll down. If you're shipping something, you can let it know what item you're shipping. Right? I'm gonna save first. Right? And then you have some other options to add some items, shipping costs. We're gonna leave it really basic here. And then you're saying when are you requiring payment? So the invoice due date. Right? I'm gonna set it up for today. And then right here, you get the options of what type of payment platforms you want to allow that customer to use to pay you, right? If we open manage right here, you'll see a few different options, right? So we have our regular credit card, and then we have the WeChat Pay. Those are on by default on your test. And then we have the Canadian pre-authorized debit and some other very cool stuff here. They also integrate with things like Afterpay. So if you want to offer installments to your customers, if you have like big ticket items, Stripe is the way to go as well, right? So I'm gonna exit right here, and then we have the delivery stuff. You can add a memo and so on, but I'm gonna just leave it like that. We're gonna review this invoice and send it out. Automatically, it's gonna say, hey, do you wanna send this out to Jason? It's gonna use the email in the customer object, and that's where it's gonna send out the.
Sorry, so the customer isn't limited to just using a Visa card, but they can also use their debit card.
Yep. Whatever payment platform from the options that you set up, they can use that to make the payment, right? So big ticket items, you can use Afterpay. Depending on what you're doing, it will depend on what you want to offer them, right? So right here, and then you can CC to somebody else. I'm gonna go ahead and send that invoice to myself. I automatically receive an email with this invoice, and I want you guys to see the email. I'm gonna just create another invoice because something that I skipped over was that you can actually preview the email on these tabs, right? So you can preview what that email will look like, what that customer is receiving, and then this is a payment page that is set up by Stripe. So this is literally zero code. You can set up your entire invoicing. You can set up a subscription. You can set up these things without knowing any code at all, right? And then in the invoice itself, it will give you what is an invoice link. So I'm gonna go ahead and copy this invoice link. And I already have a QR code thing set up right here. And I'll also open the invoice so you guys can see what that looks like. So link, send. You see, your customer sees this, and they're automatically able to pay. Just so you guys can see what that actually looks like, feel free to scan the QR code on your phone, and you'll see what that looks like on your own phone. Beep, boop, beep, boop, beep, boop, beep.
Question. Can you customize this page, which we're gonna see right now?
So the customization is limited. Stripe does give you a certain level customization where it will take your company name, it can take your company logo, it can take your company colors, but things like the layout, that's up to Stripe. If you want something a bit more custom, then the second portion of the speech is more for you because you want to do more in integration stuff. And you can see right here we have already a set Stripe, what's it called? Test card. Stripe has a bunch of test cards, so you don't have to use your actual credit card to test all your software. And I can go ahead and just say process payment. Done. And you can see that I set up the company as React plus Native. So technically React plus Native is paying React Native plus Native. I didn't think about it at the time when I set it up, but. And then after all of this is set up, you can go back here and you can see how you're doing. And you can see right here that I just had a huge volume sale of $10,000 for one speech, right? So that is kind of the big portion of how to use Stripe on a very, very basic way with the Stripe dashboard.
I noticed the balance there is $9,649. Was that the processing fee deducted from that $10,000?
Yes. So if you go into payments, you'll see that you'll have a payment of $10,000. And then right here, it tells you that the fee is $350. Yeah. It's hefty. That's because I use a credit card. Stripe also, like, for example, their direct debit stuff is capped out at $5. So their maximum fee on direct debit is $5. Maybe for something higher, you want to offer that option. Normally, industry standard is that the vendor is the one that pays that fee. You could switch it up, so the customer pays that fee, or you pay it yourself if you're like starting off and you want to get some traction. But that will depend on you. So right here, you see your fee, and that is.
Can you zoom in a bit? That one.
You can see it right here. So you see a little description, the amount that was paid out, the fee, and then your net is exactly what you have access to. All right, great. So for this first portion, does anyone have any questions?
So that amount minus the fee, does that get automatically sent to your bank account, or do you have to like do a withdrawal?
So at this point, you would have to do a checkout. It doesn't get automatically sent to your bank account. It doesn't and it does. Because if you do not cash out for a certain period of time, then Stripe will automatically cash you out and send it to a signed up bank account.
That was my question.
Right? Perfect. Any other questions about this, like, no code?
Just small question regarding the fee. Is like when we use the simple Visa or the MasterCard, some providers, seems like this fee is going to be much smaller, right?
So here's the thing. Visa, MasterCard, they're all credit cards. So that's their standard fee for credit cards. If you use something like Apple Pay, it's still hitting your credit card provider, which would end up being the same thing. So they still charge the same fee. Give me 1 second. You had a question back there?
Yes. Did it show what the exchange rate, like, does it show an exchange rate if you are transferring, for example, to USA?
So Stripe documentation and their website does have an exchange rate, and they also have an additional fee if you're exchanging from one currency to another. So I believe it's like an extra 2% if you're exchanging from one currency to another. So be careful with exchange fees. But it is the standard. So I've used other platforms. Adyen is a different platform. If you guys are interested in like alternatives, Adyen is a different platform. Go Cardless is a different platform. But Stripe has the best support for integrations, in my opinion.
Do they support cryptocurrency wallets?
Not yet. They do have plans to do it though, based on what I've heard.
Is there a way to like put money into your Stripe account So it doesn't take the fees from the sale you make, but instead like it takes money from what you put in.
I believe there is. So it's right here where you see balance transactions. And you can see right here that my balance is 0. Stripe does have a processing time. So for most of the time, you don't have access to the money right away, right? Especially if it's a bank account payment, then it has a 3-day processing fee and then another 5 days of like it being available for your cash out. And all these rules apply regardless if you're using the dashboard or you're doing the integration itself. Anyone else before I move on? All right, great. So that portion is what we call or what I call the dashboard. It's a no-code solution. You have access to almost every single one of the Stripe features, but you don't have to be a developer to be able to utilize any of it. And now we have a coded portion. Here's some of the technologies that I use in case you want to recreate it, or maybe you have some experience with some of these technologies and you're like, okay, well, I want to be able to use Stripe for processing payments. So I went ahead and I used React for the front end. I didn't want to set up a whole server, so I used Firebase. That's a serverless solution by Google. Firebase, Stripe needs to talk directly to a backend. So your front end cannot call Stripe. So I use the Firebase Cloud Functions to be able to do that link. And then obviously I use the Stripe API to be able to put all these together. So I want to start this off with a little demo, right? So this is a demo that I put together, and this is a coded one. Do not mind the UI. I didn't have a bunch of time to put it together a demo and get it like super nice. And we use Tailwind for the UI portion, right? So I'm gonna go ahead and also open the demo right here. So we have this little shop, right? Our first example was you as a person invoicing another person, which is very straightforward, is A to B, right? But in this case, we're setting up a shop where you can have multiple customers, right? You don't want to be sending invoices individually. So I'm gonna go ahead and, you know what? I like this shirt. I set up a little quick view so you can see some details. I'm using a fake store API, so this is all the information that comes back from the API, right? And then you can see, okay, well, this fake shirt is $15.99. I'm gonna go ahead and try to buy this fake shirt. This right here is all built by Stripe. This is their Stripe SDK. And going back to what I was saying before, you're not allowed to use like regular inputs to charge. Everything has to go through the Stripe SDK if it's on the front end. So it's not an option. You cannot save that. It doesn't go anywhere. You do not decide once you make the call where that information goes. All right, so super important. If you're going to be using Stripe, you have to use their front-end SDK, at least for credit card payments, right? They're a bit more lenient when it comes to bank account transactions, but credit card payments, it's all through their SDK, right? I'm going to go ahead and use their test card, 424242424242, right? You can do any, for expiration date, any date in the future. So 0330. CVV is any 3 numbers or 4 numbers. And then M5V0K3. It's my actual postal code. I'm gonna go ahead and process that. Whoa, so easy, right? So I went back to my home page and it processed the payment. If I go to my Stripe portion, and I go home, you can see that this has increased, right? And I can go to my payments, and it seems like a bunch of you tried to make payments. A lot of people try to make payments, right? And I'm glad that that happened because that leads me to showing you guys what a payment intent is. All right, so let's go ahead, open up some code. And right here, I have, how do I make this bigger?
Full screen and then zoom in like a lot.
Control what?
Command plus.
Command.
Is it control?
You guys serious? you guys sure? Yeah, it's a MacBook. Oh, wait, hold up. Maybe my computer is stuck.
Too much payments.
Oh, shoot. See, and I don't have this on a repo, so. Okay. Okay. Oh, no. Oh, yeah, it did not like that.
What if you go into review? Are there options? Sometimes there's like a presentation mode.
Well, it seems like it did it. But now it did it too much. Let's close these terminals. And that one's. And we have this one that's open, and we have another, should have another Stripe. Sorry, I have a lot of projects ongoing.
Is the source code for this presentation shared? Or
We can. Can we? Yeah, okay, we can. We can. Stripe test is right here. Drag. So if anyone wants to buy me a new computer, that $10,000 would come in handy right now. Okay, this is the front-end version of what I just showed you, right? And for the most part, this is all boilerplate stuff, calling the API, waiting for those stuff. But what we're really interested in is the checkout portion and the checkout form portion. More?
Old people at the front.
How is that?
Way more. One more. Yeah, that's better.
How is that? Anyone in the back?
One more?
No, we're good. So right here I have this component called checkout. And the first thing that you want to know is you're going to need a public key to be able to get the SDK from Stripe. Don't show this, please. Like in this case, I'm showing it because I'm going to get rid of the account once this is all done. But you need your public key, right? And this public key is going to be passed into this promise called, you can call it whatever you want, but the what's it called? The function that you're calling is load Stripe, right? Very important part is that you're also going to be importing this elements portion, right? You have elements, you have your API key, and using your API key, you're going to get this load Stripe portion. And elements is used down here. Elements needs to be, so anything that's a Stripe element needs to be wrapped in this elements component to be able to be rendered. Stripe recommends to put this in a separate component because you could have a race condition where the element is going to be looking for this like parent component, and if it doesn't find it, it's going to crash, right? So right here we have your API key, right? You have your promise, and then the only other thing that you're going to need to be able to use this is a client secret key. How do you get the client secret key? Which was my question to Stripe. So there's two ways to get a client secret key. One is by creating a payment intent. And then the other way is by creating a payment setup. The difference is that a payment intent means that the customer intends to pay. And the other one is that the customer intends to set up an account. So I'm going to do this Zoom again.
Thank you.
Let me know. I think that should be good. All right, so I have this backend function. Like I said, Stripe does not talk to your front end. Stripe goes ahead. You need to have a backend set up. There's an API stuff right there. I have my API key. There's a secret API key, just like there's a public API key. And that's how you can access your Stripe API. And then I'm just doing a quick, easy function. This is all set up with Firebase. That's why it looks like this. And it's all Node.js, right? Where I can go ahead and from that call, I'm gonna fetch whatever price was passed in from the front end back, right? I'm gonna fetch what currency, which in the front end I have it set up to default Canadian dollars. And then if I want to automatically authorize this payment, which in this case I want to do so. And then that's going to give me a payment intent object.
So this is your API endpoint, essentially. That's
Yeah.
the endpoint right there. Okay.
And just Stripe docs. You can just go into the Stripe documentation just to show you guys a little bit of what that looks like. No, not Stripe.js. Stripe API docs. And there's this API reference. This is the one that you're going to be wanting to use for the API portion. And I'm going to look for whatever it wants to load. Payment intent. And that shows a little bit of what that object is going to look like when it comes back. All right, so I'm trying to zoom in a little bit more. You get the payment object, you get like how much you're trying to charge. You can add tips. So that's pretty cool. Someone can add tips in Stripe, some cancellation fees. And what you want here is this client secret. Let's go back to our front end. I have this client secret. So these are the products. Right here I'm saying, so like create the payment intent. It's gonna go ahead. The second that you land on that checkout account, that's why you guys saw a bunch of payment intents, because it is automatically going to create a payment intent. You have to have the payment intent to be able to use the Stripe UI SDK. So it's something that you need to fetch before the payment is even confirmed. So you're gonna go ahead, fetch that payment intent. I'm gonna pass it into this guy, have a little condition so it doesn't render it unless I already have my client.
So you're making two calls, right?
I'm making one call.
The first call is for you to generate a customer ID for the payment.
Yeah.
And then the second one is to actual processing the
Yeah, there's gonna be an actual processing one.
those two calls.
Yeah. You don't do the second one. Like, it is done through you, but it's through the Stripe SDK. So you don't set up like an API call.
Yeah. Is it spoils the overall like statistics? Because it seems like every time the person opens the page, we perform this call, we have this intents. and then all our dashboard like incomplete.
Well, you can go ahead and filter them out by it, and normally you would want to put this in somewhere that the customer is ready to make the payment.
Is there ability to add some tag? Like, I mean, this technical payment or something like
You could go ahead and add metadata. Stripe allows you to add a bunch of metadata. Some of their API calls allow you to add additional fields. So that's very cool. But you do need to have that client key to be able to render that component at all. So if you don't have it, you could even have a button that say, okay, I'm ready to pay. And so instead of it doing it right away, once you click the button, then it makes the fetch, and then it renders the component.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
Do you mind scrolling down to the elements component? So in the website, you had like the sweater and then the Stripe
Yeah.
payment. So that component, the elements component is actually
So
allowing that to render.
So the elements component is going to be that wrapper.
Oh,
And then right here, Stripe has different elements. Right here, I'm rendering a payment element.
okay.
There is a way to get like more custom fields, which is that you can go ahead and look for right here where it's payment element. I believe there's a CVV element. So card CVV element, there is a, what's it called? So these are props, which are types. There's the expiration element. They have different elements. You may be able to style some of these. They also have some style props that you can use with Stripe. But for the most part, it's pretty limited.
What is the name of the node package that is allowing you to do all of that? Like you have to do npm install.
This is for the front end, is going to be a React Stripe JS. Right? So that's part of that Stripe package. For the back end, it's just Stripe. Right? And then right here, and this is the portion that we were talking about earlier, I'm setting this up, and with this checkout function, I'm preventing any events. And then I'm checking that we have, like Stripe has been loaded. We check that we have these elements, right? We have two hooks right here, and that will go ahead and check your page for that parent component, and then it's going to check for inside of that parent component for what elements are in there. And then right here, we have an early return to exit if you don't have any of these things. And this is the part that I was talking about, which is I'm not creating like a RESTful API call myself. We're using their API, we're using their API, SDK, to do so. So you have to call like this Stripe confirm payment, and then they'll make.
That process, they will create the user account and then return the object.
Yeah, it's going to go ahead and create. There's no user account set up here. You can link a user to a payment, but for example, if you go through buy and close and you don't have an account, then you don't necessarily want to have a user account to be able to make the payment. If you have something more like recurrent payments, then that's why you would set up a customer. So they can sign up, right? You set up a customer, and then you can save their payment information. You don't save it on your backend. Stripe goes ahead, it creates a token for that payment method, and then you can fetch some of the information about that card using that token.
If I come back to a website without having registered, but using the same credit card, wouldn't Stripe use the same customer ID?
No.
It will create a new one.
Yeah, it'll just create a whole new customer ID. So as long as your customer is not explicitly set up to be for these payments, it will just create you as a new transaction. Yeah. So if you want to keep track of like returning customers, then you have to do that manually by like in your own application. Maybe you can store that data in local storage or session storage, where you would create a customer, save that data on their computer, or just have them create an account, and then you would take that customer ID, and that's what you would pass down to each individual payment. And then right here, I'm just handling what happens after I get that response. If there's an error, right, just go ahead and show me the error in a toast. And if there's no error, go ahead, toast whoa, so easy, and then navigate back to the home screen. So that is the gist of how to use this stuff. Stripe, just like final thing, Stripe has amazing documentation, and they also have Stripe test cards. So you can go in and like really test out whatever you're building. It will give you different types of test cards. So right here we have a bunch of different companies, and to be able to authorize these. And then you will also have different type of responses. So they have a test card if you wanted to error out. So you can use that to check out how your errors are looking like. And you have different types of errors, right? So it can be like insufficient funds. It could be what's called non-authorized. And you can check what each one of these different errors does. So like I said, Stripe is pretty complicated. It's pretty big, but this is a little one-on-one on the basics on how to get started with Stripe. So I'll open up to questions again for this development portion.
Make sure to repeat the question.
Oh.
Make sure when people ask you questions, you just repeat it.
Oh, okay. Yep, sure. Question?
Yes. Does Stripe work with a hardware card reader?
Yes. So you can, the question is if Stripe works with a hardware card reader, and the answer is yes. You can actually go ahead and contact Stripe. They will send you one for free. There's other platforms that do it too. I believe Square is a different. They have their software portion. They have a hardware card reader. And Stripe also recently, because you can carry a balance on your Stripe account, they have created cards that you can customize, and you can have a balance on your card. It's a Visa that you can use anywhere else.
What are some common pitfalls when integrating Stripe?
So some of the common pitfalls, I would say that is not knowing enough about the documentation. Some stuff that, one of the problems that I ran into is that for billing tenants on a monthly basis, we create a subscription. But to be able to create a subscription, you need to have a customer. To be able to have a customer, they have to have an account. To be able to have an account, you have to have signed up. And to be able to have signed up, you need to have a customer. So I had a whole loop. The great thing was that I was able to go on the Discord channel. I was able to ask them, hey, I'm running through this type of problem. They'll assign someone from Stripe to help you out. And then they'll kind of try to figure it out with you. They'll tell you what's possible, what's not possible, and best practices on how to use Stripe.
And obviously that's a paid consultation if you run it.
No.
It's free.
No, it's free. It's free. You can join, anyone can join the Discord. If you have a problem, ask their devs. I think you can just look for Stripe Discord. Yeah, just look for Stripe Discord. Or what's it called? I also, so thank you. And it's funny because it's Jason Momoa. So thank you very much. We do want to share this presentation with you guys. We're going to leave a slide of resources. I'll add the Discord onto a slide of resources, and then you guys will be able to download the presentation and be able to use it however you want. And if we have enough demand, we'll go ahead and create a little repo and upload all the what's called the code that was used to be able to create this demo. Right? Like I said, for anyone that's super advanced, there is more to Stripe. You can create subscriptions. There's things like test clocks, which lets you advance in time to be able to see that a subscription is being billed properly. And there's a whole bunch of stuff, but I think I've gone past my 30 minutes. So if you guys are interested in that, let us know. We'll try to put something together, right? Here's my info, right? I'll left my socials. and my email. So you guys want to contact me, I'm here.
Thank you.
I wish I brought candy, man.